show. And I want to start by saying it's great to be back. If you are a regular listener to the podcast, you may have noticed that I've been MIA for the last month or so. So I'm going to give a short explanation for that. And then we're going to go ahead and get into the show. You're listening to the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. I discuss and review movies new and old. This is a movie podcast. This is the live version of the show. So I'll be doing a movie review today, and I'll get into what's going to be happening on this show. It's going to be the first of a three-part episode regarding a movie that I want to review with Clint Eastwood. I'll get into that in a moment. Sorry, my phone just went off here. My apologies. Let me get out of vibrate. Okay. All right. So again, you can find the podcast live if you watch it now. I'm on my Facebook page, Let Me Bend Your Ear. I'm also on my personal Facebook page on Twitch, also on Twitter. The handle for Twitter is @BendYourEarPod. I'm also live on YouTube, which is Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. So if you're not already subscribing to one of those channels, please do so. One or all would be great. I'm looking to, of course, as I've stated in the last few episodes before my little unexpected break here, was to grow the show on both the audio feed and the live component of it. And if you want to join the show, just let me know. If you're watching right now, you can come on and we can discuss the movie I'm going to review today, or anything else about movies you want to talk about. The show is also available in audio form, which is the original version of this podcast. That is on Spotify or wherever you get podcasts. It is currently available on Spotify, Podbean, Google Play, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Podbean. I've also started using the app Good Pods, which is what I've been using to aggregate all the podcasts that I listen to. It's pretty easy to use as well, so you can get it on there. But anywhere you find podcasts, you should be able to find it. Just look for Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. So before I get into why I was out, I want to thank the people that downloaded my last episode, the Michael Clayton review. You can go back. That's the most current episode before the one I'm doing right now. So I appreciate people that downloaded it while I was gone. Thank you for doing that. And I really appreciate it. Okay, so a little bit about why I've been gone for the last month and a half. I actually had a serious health situation. So basically, at the end of July, I was having trouble breathing. And over the course of a week, it worsened to the point where I had to be transported to the hospital. And it turned out that I had respiratory failure due to pneumonia. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks. And at that point, of course, when I was admitted, I was tested for COVID-19 and tested positive. So I was hospitalized for 2 weeks to get that situation under control, the pneumonia. So first, I want to say I'm very fortunate that the situation didn't go in a serious or more worse direction. I did not end up in ICU, and I was not put on a ventilator, thank goodness, on both of those counts. Unfortunately, someone that my wife was acquainted with also had a situation where, unfortunately, he passed away. So I just want to say I'm very fortunate that it didn't turn out that way for me. I think, the pneumonia was the main issue. I think I tested that positive for COVID. I think the COVID kind of exacerbated it. I don't have respiratory issues, but I had pneumonia when I was a teenager. And usually when I get a cold once or twice a year, a lot of times it sticks around for a while. So I think when I really got the pneumonia this time, it hit me hard. And unfortunately, I had to be hospitalized. But on the mend, I'm not 100% yet. So if you hear my voice sound different or my breathing sound different, or if I cough, I'm going to try to hit the mute button here so I'm not coughing in everybody's ear on the audio feed or here on the live. So that's basically what's going on. I'm on the mend. I'm not 100% yet. Hopefully, I'll be closer to that in the next couple of weeks. I was deciding whether I was going to record a podcast after I was 100% better, but I figured I'd give it a shot now and see how it goes. If for some reason I'm not happy with the result of the audio, if I'm too compromised because it doesn't sound right, then I can always not put it up on the audio feed, but I thought I'd give it a shot. So that's basically what's going on with me. I'm doing much better. I want to thank all my friends and family that reached out to me, and I really appreciate that. All right. So what I'm going to do to come back, I had thought of this before I had gotten sick, but I'm really excited to do it. So I am going to talk about, and actually something fortuitous happened as far as timing. So the next 3 episodes, starting with this one, I am going to review three Clint Eastwood westerns. I guess you're going to say the two that I'm going to review. The first two are definitely westerns. The third movie, which is going to be his new film, Cry Macho, which opens on September 17th. I know somewhat about it. I don't know if it's a western technically. It probably isn't, but that's going to be the third of the three reviews. So I'm going to review today on today's show, The Outlaw Josey Wales, which is a film which was a blind spot for me with Clint Eastwood. I've seen a lot of Clint Eastwood films growing up, and most of the films that he made in the 80s, I've seen. I've seen the Dirty Harry movies in the 70s, and I still haven't seen, and I may do it on another three-parter. I still haven't watched the Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns. I haven't watched those, but I watched The Outlaw Josey Wales, which I'll review today, which was a blind spot, the 1976 western classic. So I'm going to review that one today. Next episode, I'm going to review the 1992 film Unforgiven, which I have seen, which spoiler alert, is phenomenal, and I'll do that review in the next episode. I saw that in the movies. I own it. I've seen that movie quite a few times. So Unforgiven will be the second episode, and then the third episode will wrap up with this segment on Clint Eastwood movies. I'll review the new movie Cry Macho, which I believe is going to be released. Well, it is, or I wouldn't be reviewing it because I can't go out yet, in theaters, and I believe on HBO Max as well. So that review will be up the weekend it opens in theaters and on streaming. So again, let's go ahead and get into the review. So today I'm reviewing The Outlaw Josey Wales, which is a western that was released in 1976. So a little history on Outlaw Josey Wales. The movie is based on a novel that a lot of studios wanted to make, and Clint Eastwood ended up eventually attaining the rights to the book to make into a film. And the film was originally written. The screenplay was co-written and initially going to be directed by Philip Kaufman. So if that name sounds familiar to you, it may sound familiar to you on this podcast, because actually Philip Kaufman directed The Right Stuff, which is a movie I reviewed on my Movies in Space series. So if you go to my back catalog, I did a 3-part Movies in Space review of Apollo 13, First Man, and The Right Stuff, which is The Right Stuff chronicles the Mercury program, the initial astronauts that were picked for the space program. And it's an excellent, excellent film. Philip Kaufman, a very good writer, director. He's written countless screenplays, directed a bunch of films. Henry and June, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, the remake of The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, very good screenwriter and director. So he was hired to co-write the script and direct The Outlaw Josey Wales with Clint Eastwood. So basically, what happened was the movie had started filming, and Philip Kaufman and Clint Eastwood clashed. So since Clint Eastwood bought the property and his studio was producing the movie, and he was basically in charge of the production in the sense that he had a say in everything creative regarding this movie. So if you know, a couple of years earlier, Clint Eastwood directed his initial film, which was Play Misty for Me, which had him and Jessica Walter in it. It's kind of actually a precursor for Fatal Attraction. So that was the first film he directed, and to great success. So obviously he's got that director's eye, and obviously his career going until now. He's 91 years old, and he's got a movie coming out in 2 weeks that he acted in and directed. So obviously he's had a humongous career as a director, a critically acclaimed career as a director, as well as an actor, and has directed some phenomenal movies. So they were clashing on this set of The Outlaw Josey Wales regarding his direction of it. And eventually Clint Eastwood got Philip Kaufman fired, and there was a directors guild, and took over the movie himself. So he directed Outlaw Josey Wales himself, took over after he had Philip Kaufman fired. And this actually created a huge issue with the directors union regarding that, because obviously with the unions involved, directors, actors, crew people, craftspeople, there are specific protocols that need to happen, and they don't really look well upon a director being fired, and it doesn't happen that often. But the Directors Guild was extremely angry that Clint Eastwood took over. So to the point where I think they had to make a they made a rule after this because there wasn't a rule in place where a director cannot be fired and then the actor take over directing the film. So I believe that's a rule that's to this day because of the situation with Clint Eastwood. So Warner Brothers and them were fined like $30,000, something like that, and he ultimately ended up directing The Outlaw Josey Wales. So that's a little bit of the background of the movie. So the film is set post Civil War. Clint Eastwood plays Josey Wales, a Missouri farmer. At the outset of the movie, he's working on the farm. He has a wife and son, and the farm is raided by Union soldiers or a faction of Union soldiers that are basically marauders that are raiding southern towns, southern farms, and burning everything to the ground, taking money and killing people. So unfortunately, at the beginning of the film, they go to Josey Wales' farm and they murder his wife and son and leave him for dead. He's shot and they think he's dead. They leave him for dead and burn his property to the ground. So that's how the movie opens. Josey Wales, of course, is not dead. He is alive. He buries his wife and son and sets off on a mission of revenge. That's a pretty simple way to look at it. So as the movie progresses, he ends up hooking up with Confederate, basically a guerrilla Confederate outfit that is going to get payback. So he becomes a member of this group and they start to get payback. They go to Union areas. They shoot and kill Union people that were involved in the marauding, and they're basically on a rampage. So he becomes a outlaw of some pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? His reputation precedes him. So he is a part of that group. So what happens is they're ultimately captured by the Union soldiers and are offered a deal. So the leader of the Confederate group, which is not Josey Wales, he's just a member of it, makes a deal with the Union soldiers that if they all turn themselves in and declare their loyalty to the Union, they will not be killed and they can live their lives as long as they don't continue to do what they were doing. So the leader makes a deal and goes back to the camp where they are located and lets them know, hey, look, I can't do this anymore. I'm getting too old for it. It's time for me to give it up. I've made a deal with the Union. They're going to spare us if we stop what we're doing and declare our loyalty to the Union and turn ourselves in. So everyone agrees to do it except Josey Wales. He's like, not interested. I'm not going. Good luck to you. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, even if I do it on my own. So the rest of the group goes back, and essentially the Union reneges on the deal. They massacre all of the marauders with the exception of the leader, and basically task the leader of the Confederate guerrilla outfit with going after Josey Wales, who had realized that they were being double-crossed and came in and shot up where they were at and caused a lot of mayhem. So the leader of the Confederate group, so basically Josey Wales' friend, is going to go after him because now Josey Wales is a fugitive and is wanted dead or alive. So that's the setup. That's the first part of the movie. And the remainder of the movie is Josey Wales basically as a fugitive. He ends up meeting up with a Native American played by Chief Dan George, a mother and daughter played by Sandra Locke, who, if you are aware of her history with Clint Eastwood, they were in a relationship and did about 5 or 6 films together. I think this is the first film that she's in with him, if I recall correctly. And so the movie is him trying to evade capture, essentially to try to find a place where he can be safe. And that's the thrust of the movie. So let me discuss what I like about the film. It is a revisionist Western, so and I think the critical acclaim it met with at the time, I'll discuss that a little bit later, but it's revisionist in the sense that it's not the typical Western. So it's not, most Westerns you see, there's a town, there's a bad guy, there's a good guy, probably a couple of shootouts, horse riding, stuff like that. That's all incorporated in Outlaw Josey Wales, but this is more of and you'll see this theme in Clint Eastwood's work of deeper themes within the Westerns and what they represent. and you definitely will see that in Unforgiven as well, when I discuss that one in the next episode. But in this one, obviously, you have the themes of revenge and friendship, and the effects of violence and revenge, and how that really affects your life and the people's lives around you. So it's themes I think he starts to explore here, and so it's not the typical Western. I think he's made more typical Westerns. Like if you take a 1985's Pale Rider, I may review that for another episode. I haven't seen that in a long time, but this one I think has got deeper meaning than that. And obviously, it's a little bit. It's set during a time where you don't see a lot of Westerns set, post Civil War. Kind of that aspect is woven into the movie. It's not, it's not about the Civil War, because obviously the Civil War had ended at this point, and it's not about North versus South. It's really about bad guys versus good guys, in the sense that obviously these Union soldiers are this group of Union soldiers that were marauding and killing and robbing and pillaging through these southern towns are evil. That's not questioned. And Josey Wales was just living his life at the time, before obviously he set out on his mission of revenge. And he does do that. If you're a fan of the action and Clint Eastwood, if you're a fan of Clint Eastwood, this is a very good movie to watch. Now, as far as the critical acclaim, as I was reviewing, and I know this movie has always been held in very high regard by critics. I know at the time the movie came out, he screened it for actually some really old school directors like Howard Hawks, directors of other Westerns, who universally praised the film. And I know one of the great quotes was from Orson Welles, one of my favorite directors, of course, who watched the film and basically said if this film had been directed by anybody else, it would have been considered one of the best Westerns ever made. But because it's Clint Eastwood, I think he was of the opinion that the critical acclaim wasn't what it should have been. But I don't know if I agree with that, because it was nominated for several awards. Critics love it. I know it was preserved in the National Film Registry, as well as a piece of filmmaking with historic importance. So it's in the Library of Congress. So it's been basically universally praised as one of the better Westerns. And the thing that was important for that movie at that time in the mid-70s is this was a time when Westerns were pretty much considered not dead, because there were still movies coming out. I mean, the John Wayne film, The Shootist, came out in the mid-70s. So there were Westerns coming out, but it was definitely not the dominant art form that it had been the previous 35 to 40 years before. So it was definitely not the golden age of Western. So this movie kind of signified that the Western can still be a viable option as a filmmaking genre in the 70s. So I think that's why it holds a lot of importance for a lot of people. So I think that's why that's part of it as well. So my review, let me get to what I didn't like, and I guess didn't like is the wrong word. My issue with the movie, it did drag in spots. It wasn't, there was some spots were a little bit slow. Nothing terrible. It wasn't like I was bored in the sense, or it was. I've seen basically a lot worse movies that have dragged a lot worse. So it wasn't anything significant, but it is enough to affect my Van Gogh review, which I'll give shortly. It is enough for me to downgrade it a little bit, but it is still an excellent film. And if you're a fan of Clint Eastwood, it's a very good Clint Eastwood performance. Chief Dan George is really good in it as well. And the one performance I do want to single out, and give me a second, I didn't pull up because I always forget his name. The actor that played the leader of the Confederate guerrilla outfit that Josey Wales joins is fantastic. He's only in a few scenes in the movie, and but they're very important. And the actor, here it is, it's John Vernon. So if you know John Vernon, fantastic character actor, and he's probably best known for playing the Dean in Animal House, which he's fantastic in. He's got that famous quote about John Belushi's grade point average, where he goes 0.0. So that if you know Animal House, you know that actor. But John Vernon is also on the Outlaw Josey Wales, and like I said, he plays the leader of the guerrilla group that Josey Wales joins, and who ultimately ends up going after Josey Wales to try to get him. And there's a great scene at the very end of the movie. I'm not going to give away what happens, but where he's just a really good actor, and he's really good in this role. and it's a sign of a good character. And I'm a big fan of character actors anyway. I listen to other podcasts and that focus on character actors, and these are, if you're not familiar with that term, if you are a movie lover, you know what that term is. But character actor is someone that's in hundreds of movies and television shows. You may not even know their name, but you know them when you see them. You recognize them. And more importantly, you recognize them because when they're in something, no matter how big or small their part is, whether it's television or movies or wherever they're in, they make the scenes better, or they're the best thing in the scene. And what I will say is just a brief side note. Michael K. Williams passed away yesterday. I saw the news, and 54 years old. First of all, way too young. He was, if you know him, he was in Boardwalk Empire. He was in Lovecraft Country this past year, nominated for an Emmy. But of course, he will always be known as Omar Little in The Wire, which was one of the best television shows ever, and he was one of the best characters ever on it. So I want to say rest in peace to him. And that's the definition of a character actor. He comes on the screen, he takes over the screen, and he was magnetic. His performance is magnetic. So again, when I talk about character actors, somebody like that is what I'm talking about. So again, John Vernon in Outlaw Josey Wales is fantastic. Probably my favorite performance in that movie. Again, Clint Eastwood's good. He's very good in the movie. And the direction is good. The scenery is beautiful. Like I said, it's a very good film. I understand why it gets the acclaim that it does. Like I said, I just take it down a small notch, just because, like I said, there was just some parts of it that I thought were a little bit slow. Like I said, it wasn't deadly to the movie. It didn't detract from my enjoyment of the movie. It just makes me take my review down a tick from where I would put it. So The Outlaw Josey Wales, again, directed by Clint Eastwood, released in 1976. I believe I was actually able to watch it on Netflix. So I don't know if it's still there, but you can watch it there. Obviously, if you want to rent it, it's on VOD, wherever you get your videos on demand. You can rent it and watch it there. So again, I was glad to get it off my blind spot list. So it was really a good one to start with, this Clint Eastwood 3 episode show. So again, The Outlaw Josey Wales. So out of 5 Van Goghs, I'm going to give it 4 Van Goghs. So for 4 Van Goghs for me, great movie. It's a movie I would watch again. It just, like I said, my small issues with it notwithstanding, which would knock it down from making it a 5 Van Gogh, which is of course, in my book, 5 is classic. 4 is still excellent movie, worth your time to watch, especially if you are either a Western fan and or a Clint Eastwood fan. Excuse me, just muted real quick because I was coughing. All right, so 4 Van Goghs out of 5 for The Outlaw Josey Wales. Again, you're listening to the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. I'm on live now. If you happen to pop on real quick in the next couple of minutes before I wrap it up, I'm going to try to wrap it up here since I haven't really coughed until right now, so I don't want to ruin the record here. But again, if you want to listen to the show later, you can get it on any podcast catcher that you have. The show is officially on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, and Good Pods. Or like I said, you can find it. I'm sure it's on other podcatchers that I'm not even sure about. So wherever you get podcast, you can get it there. So do me a favor, a couple of things. If you are watching this video later, since we have nobody on now, but if you watch it later, wherever you're watching it, YouTube, on the Facebook channel, please like and subscribe to the channels. Because as I stated before, hopefully I'm back here as my health improves, and I'll be back to my hopefully weekly recording schedule that I had been on prior to me having my unfortunate health situation at the end of July. So I'm glad to be back. It's great to do the podcast. I missed it. I enjoyed doing it. I'm glad I'm still kicking around here to do it. And I'm grateful that I was able to come out of this health situation still here, and grateful for that, and sad for people that have not been able to. So again, they're in my thoughts as well. But I am happy to be back. Like I said, this is a movie podcast. I discuss and review movies new and old. And this is part 1 of a 3-part series. So again, on the next episode, I'm going to review the Clint Eastwood Western Unforgiven, which stars Eastwood, Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, Richard Harris. So I'm looking forward to that episode. And then the episode after that is going to be the review of the brand new Clint Eastwood film, Cry Macho, which is, from what I've read, was kind of like Unforgiven, kind of a long time in the gestation. It's also based on a novel from quite a long time ago. And it's been kind of bouncing around until it's been finally made into a movie now in 2021. So again, if you could just like the YouTube or subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, and then you can follow me on Twitter. That's the best way to get a hold of me. My Twitter handle is @BendYourEarPod. I'm also on Instagram. Bend Your Ear Pod is the handle, so you can reach me there as well. But Twitter is usually the best way. I like to interact with other movie podcasters and discuss movies and what I like about them. So again, it's great to be back. I appreciate everybody reaching out to me while I was going through my situation. I'm glad to be back. I'm not 100%, but I'm getting there. But I'm way better than I was a couple of weeks ago, so I'm very happy about that. So again, if you enjoy movies, do me a favor. If you see me on social media, or you watch this live video, or you listen to the audio feed, if you are a movie fan and you know other movie fans that are looking for new movie podcasts, I joke every episode, everybody's got a podcast, including me, but that's fine. And people are always looking for new podcasts. So if you think they like this one, please have them check out the show. Rate and review if you listen to the audio feed on any podcasting apps, especially Apple Podcasts. If you can write a rating and review, that would really help the show increase listenership and followers. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you see any of my posts on social media for episodes or these live videos, if you could share those on your social media, that's another real easy way you can help the show obtain a higher profile. That's what I've been trying to do. That has been my focus up until before I got sick. Now I am back. The focus remains. I want to grow the show. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. If you want to email the show email is bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. So if you have any questions about the show, comments about the show, or movies that you would like me to review and discuss, I'll definitely take suggestions as well. Like I said, I've seen a lot of movies, but I haven't seen as many movies as everybody out there put together. So if there's a movie that I haven't reviewed already that you'd like me to check out and review, give me your suggestions. I'll be happy to take a look and see if I will do that, review it on the show, and give you a shout out if I take your suggestion. So again, this live episode will be wrapping up here, but if you catch any live episodes going forward, remember, you can come join the show. I have the ability to take live guests on whenever I want. So feel free to pop me up wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Twitter or on Twitch or on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook page, just type in, "Hey, I want to come on," and we'll get you on and we can talk movies. Like I said, we could talk about Josey Wales today, or if you come on another time, or we could just talk about movies in general. So if I get a guest on, we can bounce around to other topics regarding movies. It doesn't have to be the movie that I've talked about in this episode. So again, this is the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. I'm Frank, the host. It's great to be back. Slowly getting better, but it's great to be able to record an episode. I really missed it for over the last month or so, so it's great to be back. Again, you can find the podcast at any audio podcast feed. Just click and subscribe, and then when you do that, you'll get notifications when new episodes are uploaded, or if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll get notifications when I go live like I am right now. So again, Outlaw Josey Wales, 4 Van Goghs out of 5. Thank you so much. I look forward to continuing the podcast as I've been doing now that I'm back. And I hope everybody takes care, stay safe out there, and have a fantastic week. Take care.